Hello and welcome to Sales Logic. This is kind of like the pre-show. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn. Meredith, how you doing today? You're in a different place.
Yeah, I am. I'm down at our place in South Carolina, and it's kind of exciting down here because the weather is amazing, and South Carolina's starting to open up a little bit. We're seeing a little sales going on.
Well, that's good. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. Needless to say, the weather is but we are opening up. And hey, I've already been out to eat twice in two restaurants with my wife, patronizing restaurants because we've been open here for about 9 days. You know what? Life goes on. Life goes on. We got to make it happen. So.
Yeah, I think it's sort of exciting. I mean, I think we're starting to see that whether you're in a state that's opening up, or I actually live in North Carolina and we really are just beginning phase one. But I think it doesn't matter because I think that salespeople are starting to figure this time out, starting to put some energy around getting sales. I don't know about you, Mark, but I feel like my list is really picking up and business is starting to come in and a lot of good things are happening. May looks much stronger than April looked.
My list never slowed down. I mean, wait, we have talked about this, and we were talking about this even just before we went live. It's about getting out there and hustling and creating opportunities. This isn't I'm not executing the business plan I thought I was going to be executing. I don't know about you, but you know what? We pivot, we change, we figure out new solutions, new ideas, and we move forward. And I think that is just absolutely key. I spent a few minutes on the internet watching the news, and man, I got depressed, and I had to shut it out. I had to shut it down. I lose focus. And my whole objective is, what can I be doing right now? That's what I want to be zeroed in on.
Well, I think one of the most important things that you can do right now, I was just on the phone with somebody just called me about a piece of business, and I was another consultant who wanted to share a job. And I said, well, what have you been up to? And he said, well, I've really just laid low for the first 30 days. And I thought, wow, I mean, laying low is not what you need to be doing right now. You really need to be out there and you really need to be visible. I've really been blown away at the fact that at the beginning of this crisis, I didn't really know what I was doing. Honestly, I was just throwing everything at the wall I could throw at the wall. I mean, any idea I had, I was putting it out there. And slowly, things began to stick. And then one idea led to another idea, led to focus, led to something else. And now I'm really feeling the pipe turning on. So I really want our listeners to understand that in uncertainty, you have to be uncertain about what you're doing. If you're waiting for the absolute answer, you're going to be waiting forever. So it's okay to try things and not get an immediate result because everything's building on everything else.
You do. You have to have a level of patience, and you got to be kind of that mad scientist that's testing. You have to be testing. I've tested so many different things. And you go through that little phase where you're busy, but are you really productive? And I know you and I, we had that conversation many, many times about we got to be trading out busy work for productive work. And that could be a little bit of a challenge, but I know I'm finding a lot more things sticking. Now, the ROI varies. The ROI plays a different game. There's some ROI that comes quickly. Other ROI is a long-term game. But you got to be moving. You got to be moving.
Yeah, you really do. You've got to be out there. I think on top of that is to get your head right in the right spot, to really understand that you need to be moving because people need you. I mean, Mark, you say this all the time. I mean, that it's your obligation to sell if you can help somebody solve a problem or to be there for them. But you've got to get your head around the fact that you've got to be out there. But I think you made such an important point is that you're trying things and you're kind of like a mad scientist, and you have to be okay with the fact that some things work, and because it's through trying things that you're gonna find the things that'll stick, that you're gonna find the things that'll work, that you're gonna find the things that will be your next steps.
Yeah, and just because it doesn't work does not mean it doesn't work. No, it didn't work in that form, but there's going to be something you're going to take out of it. I mean, Einstein, you look at any person in the history of time. Edison, when he invented the light bulb, always said, he did 166 failures. No, they weren't failures. They were 166 different ways to not make a light bulb. And then he finally came up with, again, I butchered that quote, but it is about trying things and making, you look at how restaurants have had to pivot and how they've had to change their format. And they've got to figure out a way, how do I make my margin I need to remain open if I can only be seating at 25% or 50%, and I got to rely on takeout, and I got to put all these other costs in place. How do I make that work? But to the ones who do, they're going to come out of it. I say right now we're getting an MBA in sales, we're getting an MBA in business, because we're having to figure things out, and there's no textbook for it, but we're figuring out. But those who do really come out ahead.
Yeah, I love seeing the innovation. Like I said, I'm down here in South Carolina, and the weather is incredible. It's like one of those weeks that's 75 and sunny. So all the restaurants are open, and you can go inside, but people are still hesitant to go inside. So a lot of them have turned their parking lots. If they didn't have outdoor space, they've turned their parking lots into outdoor space. And they've done really creative things with tents and providing those types of things. We sat in a booth last night that had a little plexiglass up to basically keep you separated. And from the moment that you come in, I mean, their customer service is off the chart because they're so great. Specials that they're going to have later in the week because they want you to come back. I feel like these very same restaurants that I ate in just a few short months ago, they have upped their sales game to a whole nother level. I mean, the creativity and the innovation that they're using to not only get you in the door the first time, but to make sure that you come back, it is going to pay off tenfold once we get back, get out of this crisis and figure out what our new normal is. They're going to be competing at a whole nother level.
It is. I mean, customer service is really getting redefined right now in a huge way. Hey, something I have found very interesting, and that is, it really comes down to who you associate with. I am really watching. You and I were on a call the other night. We both said, "Wow, that was a negative call," because the people who were on the call. We really have to be careful as to who we spend time with, who we're willing to associate with, because who we associate with really becomes who we become like. And that's one of the values I think we bring with Sales Logic. You and I both kind of feed off each other and help take our game, and hopefully we're taking our listener. And I know we're taking our listeners' game because we hear it in the comments. We hear it every week.
Yeah, I think that, it is about being protective of your time. You mentioned watching the news earlier, and I think you need to read or you need to watch the news in the essence that you need to be informed. It's important to know what's going on right now, but at the same time, you've got to be connected to people and be successful, because you're going to feed off of that energy. And I've talked to more than a couple of people who said they wouldn't wish this crisis on anybody, but it's invigorating to have to go back in and really question what you're doing from a sales and a business perspective, and really go in and ask yourself, could I do better? Can I dig deeper? Can I be, even more innovative? So I think that there are some things that all of us can do. But Mark, I think that is probably a good lead into our show today. What do you say if I go ahead and kick it off?
Well, I kick it off because you know what? We got a great question. We got a great topic. We got a great lightning round. So why don't we get Micah, our producer, to run the video, and then you kick it off. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
When we prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
Who has made a prospecting call today?
This is Sales Logic.
All right, a lot of energy there. Welcome to Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the techniques, and give you everything that you need to know to well sell logically. I'm Meridith Elliott Powell, and I am here with my co-host,
Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. Meridith, we got a great show lined up today. Man.
Yeah, we got a lot of good things on the docket. I'm going to share what the topic is going to be for today, and then Mark, why don't you update us on the question and basically share why we start with a question. But you're going to want to stick around for today's show because we are going to talk about is reducing a price to close a sale a good strategy for this period that we are in right now. Mark?
Yeah, that's the topic. But like we do every week, we always start off with a question from a listener. And hey, if you want to submit a question, jump out to our website, saleslogicpodcast.com, or go out to social media and just hashtag SalesLogic. Give us your question. We'll be answering it. So what we do is we do a question. I'll share it with you in just a second. We're going to jump into that topic that Meridith talked about. And then we finish it up with that lightning round where we go boom, 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 real quick on something. Hey, here's the question for today. And it comes from Patrick in Tampa. How has prospecting changed? And more importantly, how many times should I try to reach out to a prospect before I give up? I presume that Patrick is talking about right now in this pandemic world, pandemic situation we're in. Meridith, what do you think?
All right, so we kind of got two questions in one here. How has prospecting changed, and how long should you hang on with a prospect? Let's talk a minute about how prospecting has changed. I don't know that it has changed a whole lot. However, there are a couple of things that I know that I am discussing with my clients. Is number one is you really cannot waste time right now. I was laughing with a client this morning and started to talk about margins being skinny. And then I thought, wow, for some of us, there aren't even any margins left in the business, right? We're just trying to come out even. So you've got to be really, really clear on your prospect avatar. Who is your ideal prospect? And then really every prospect that you call on, you're judging them against that criteria, really sitting in the power seat with prospecting rather than in the desperation seat with prospecting. All too often we go out and we make a sales call and we're just praying that somebody does business with us. It's not where you want to be. You want to be sitting there and thinking, is this person lucky enough and the right fit for me? And when a crisis hits, you get a little desperate. You just want any business. But if you bring the wrong business in the door, it'll cost you more on the back end.
You really summed it up well, because I think the vast majority of salespeople don't even have an avatar. They don't even have an avatar in terms of who is their ideal customer profile. I mean, that blows me away. What is really kind of crazy is this whole thing that what's changed in prospecting. Really, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
We've just upped our game because, you can never have been tone deaf, but now
Right.
Tone deaf is something we talk about. You've always been needing to understand what the customer's saying. Well, that's always been the case. I mean, to a certain degree, prospecting really hasn't changed. And the whole piece of how many times should I try to reach out before I give up, I don't think that's changed at all, because go back to what you had mentioned, piece that I always talk about. If you have the ability to help somebody, it's your responsibility to reach out to them. So you don't give up on them. You have to stay with them.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting. I love this question because I think it is a question that's on the mind of so many of our listeners. Is that you've got to understand that in a time like this, Your time is incredibly valuable. And I've always thought that one of the biggest mistakes that sales professionals make is we chase business that either we are never going to get, or we chase business that if we do get it, we really rather we never would have gotten it. So you've really, really got to get clear on who you want to do business with. Because another thing is, I think right now is one thing that has changed, again, hasn't changed, but we've upped our game, is this is the best time ever to be prospecting. And the reason is because so many of your competitors have gone back into the cave. There are people out there who don't believe they should be selling right now, or they're worried or scared to sell. So the competitive landscape is not as strong. But you have to be setting up that criteria so you're not making an emotional decision to do business with people. You're making a logical and fact-based decision. I mean, Mark, I could call on you and you and I just have the greatest conversation. We're having a lot of fun, that I miss the signs that I really shouldn't be doing business with you. So I want to get some criteria there so it is more of a fact and a logical based decision.
Gee, I guess that's the name of our podcast, Sales Logic, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. There's so many. Yeah. Stop and think about that. Here's what I find that sales cave where salespeople are hiding out is getting bigger and bigger. So for those of us who are out there is more open territory for us to run. This whole piece of understanding what is your time worth. In fact, I got a whole chapter in my new book, A Mind for Sales, on it, where I talk about your most valuable asset is your time. Yeah. So you do have to determine the number of reps, the length of your cadence that you're going to stay with a prospect must equal the value of your time. So if what you're selling is pencils, well, no, I can't stick with you through a 30 call cadence. However, if I'm selling multi-million-dollar or tens of millions of dollars worth of software, I'm going to stick with you because the value is there. So you have to have a cadence that matches the value of your time relative to the value of the sale and what it's worth to you.
Yeah. One thing that I think that I love about sales in today's marketplace is is what social media and email campaigns have given us. And that is that if somebody falls into my target market, somebody I really believe that I could help, but they're not responding, I'm not getting traction, or they've just said now is not the right time, I really drop them down to a twice a year connection where, maybe twice a year, maybe 4 times a year, they'll get something from me via email, something from me that is a connection on social media. In other words, takes no time and no money on my part, but just that visibility. Every now and then, they'll either move up on my prospect list wanting to talk more, or I actually close a piece of business that way. So I think that as sales professionals, when it really comes to prospecting, we've got to be thinking about what we typically do, as well as adding some of the advantages that marketing gives us today.
You build out your plan accordingly. Hey, we should probably jump into the topic here. But before we do that, hey, VanillaSoft, they're our sponsor. It's great to have them as our sponsor. Very much appreciate them because they really do help you put prospecting. I didn't realize now that I think about it, how their software, their system really would help Patrick from Tampa in terms of understanding what his sales cadence and his process should be. But hey, let's jump into the topic. Is reducing a price to close a sale a good strategy in this period we're in? Have at it, Meredith.
I don't think reducing your price is ever a good strategy. So if we're going to leave the word good in front of there, I would say no. Now, I'm going to put a caveat, and we will get to and we will talk about sometimes you have to reduce price, but it should always be a last resort. There are so many alternatives in front of reducing price that should really be the last place that you go.
I love the argument. People say, well, what's your pandemic pricing? What's your COVID discount? Or, I'm sure things are slow for you. So how big of a deal can you cut for me? Discounting is not a strategy to grow your business. Now, I can sit here and throw out something that I hate to say it. Discounting might be a survival. No, it's not even a survival strategy. All it does is prolong your death. Here's the whole thing. There's other ways that you could, cash is king. Cash is king. Create other value for the customer. And the way you create other value for the customer is you get them thinking about, you get them realizing what is the situation that they're trying to solve. What's the pain? What's the gain? What is it that they're dealing with? I got to tell a very quick story. I had a president of a company call me one time, wanted me to come in and speak. You know, you get called a lot to have people come in and speak. And this guy called me up and he said, my fee was too high. And he was asking me if I'd cut my fee. And I said, no, I would not. And I said, hey, how much business do you expect to lose from that new competitor that's coming in to your space? There was this pause. And then he said, that was good. You're hired. Because my price was chump change compared to the risk that he was going to play out. See, this is the whole thing. We wind up discounting price because we don't understand the value and the need, the value we can create, the need we can solve, and how we can help you. So don't sit there and think, oh, just because we're in this period right now, I got to discount my price. False.
Yeah, I do think, I can hear some salespeople probably moaning right now as we're speaking and saying, you don't understand my industry and the situation that I'm in. And let me tell you, I, for one, have experienced it right now. Like, I have a couple of clients that are really in painful situations. They're, COVID has impacted them hard, and it's just erased their revenue streams. But rather than discount my price, we just did some creative things. Like, one is a client that I'm helping, we're launching a new product for them. And so basically we did the contract. They said, I can't pay that. I said, let's do this. Let's get the product to launch. Let's sell the product. And when you sell that, you pay me my fee. So in essence, I'm working as it's going to be retained. Another one, we just delayed a couple of months until their loan and their grant came in, and they were able to get back up. They were able to get back up on my feet. To work with people, and I think if you have conversations with people, my worry about discount. And at the same point, my clients are experiencing a pain point, I'm trying to find other ways to make paying me easier or more manageable for them.
See, the whole solution there is don't rush to the discount. Don't rush to the price. Rush to the solution. Rush to the solution and what that's going to be worth to them. Then in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, what's the long-term value of this relationship? How do I create alternative options, alternative means? But at the end of the day, discounting your price is not something you just say, oh, let's go ahead and discount price. Because I'll tell you what, I haven't found too many stores that I can go to, the stores that are open, yes, the grocery stores and box store and everything else, that where they're discounting their prices just because, no, it takes money. Profit is a beautiful thing. Profit's beautiful. Profit allows you to invest back in your business. Profit allows you to do what you do. And what does that do? It allows you to take care of your customers better. And when you take care of your customers better, what is it? You're creating more value. It's not, we can't lose this just because of this period of time we're in.
Yeah, I also think that it's going to be hard to raise your prices back after this, after things return to whatever the new normal is. Years ago, it was back in 2004, my husband's dental office got flooded out. File insurance, we had no cash flow, we had no anything. But everybody we worked with was willing to work with us, understanding that our cash flow was down at the time. But we ended up paying, none of the equipment to rebuild the office was discounted, nothing was discounted. but everybody worked with us. So I would say that's really where the answer is. You know, we're in the business of helping people improve their businesses and be more successful. The price with that is well worth the investment. But at the same time, understand that people may be in a pain point and may need you to work with them.
Yeah. And the final piece, then we'll jump into the lightning round here in a bit, is go back to what we said about Patrick from Tampa and his question. Who's your avatar? What does your ideal customer look like? So many times what happens is we get into discounts because we're dealing with people who really shouldn't be our customers. I've used this line, I've used it a lot, and I've been ripped on it a few times recently, but I still stick with it. You can't take a Walmart shopper and make them a Nordstrom customer. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If you're a discount-oriented shopper, you're not going to go to a high-end store. So stay in your lane. When you know your lane, it's amazing how much more successful you'll be because you'll be more confident because you're really helping the right customer. So, hey, we need to jump into the lightning.
Mark, I know we do, but you made such a good point. I don't want to let that go. And I just need to back that up. So years ago, when I was a banker, they told us that our target market was physicians, that we were supposed to go out and call on doctors. And I really want our listeners to understand that when we say target market, we're talking about going so much deeper than just the industry. When you talk about your client avatar, you need to know who they are, what's important to them, and what matters. Because there was a piece of business that every banker in town was chasing. It was this huge ophthalmology practice. They did millions in revenue a year. But the doctor was well known for, excuse my language, but they called him a rate whore. That he would go wherever the lowest rate was and he wouldn't bring you the rest of the business, and he would flip banks every 2 years. So while all of my competitors were busy chasing that piece of business, I went out to the smaller ophthalmologists around them. And in that amount of time, I closed 6 loans while my competitors may have landed the one deal, but it was a deal in a really important for people to understand. It's not enough to choose an industry. You're choosing a type of person, and develop that criteria and come from the place of power. That's going to put you in a position not to reduce price. All right, let's go to the lightning round, Mark.
Yeah.
What's up?
And you know, that just spurred something, because we should do an episode here sometime about how do you define that avatar? How do you create that ICP? But hey, we're going to run out of time here. We're going to run out of time, so we got to make this the lightning round. What are some quick things you can do to avoid having to make a price discount when the customer asks for one? What's the quick way to respond?
A quick way to respond is, number one is ask a lot of questions to figure out what return on investment they're looking for, so that you understand how to reframe the conversation to talk about, rather than price of your product, the result they're going to get.
I love that approach, because it's about that. And I'm going to add to this. Hey, don't run to the discount. What you do is you come back to them and you ask them, hey, here's something else we can add in. Actually put something incremental on the table to get them thinking about it. Radical, different, it works.
If price is really an issue, maybe start with a smaller piece of the project. Allow them to come in at a smaller level and add tremendous value so that you can pull the rest on the back end.
One approach that I love, if you think you're going to get into a price issue, you create what I call the Uber. Okay, not the Uber in terms of, you know, the transportation mode, but you create the ultimate offer, and you let the customer they would buy right there on the table. And because of the contrast between the two, it's amazing. They'll take the one that they really should have had all along without quivering about a price, because they're contrasting it with the most expensive one.
Oh, that's a great idea. Maybe look at the payment terms. If it's really painful for them to, I do this a lot with sales strategies. When I'm going into companies who are a little bit trepidatious about getting started, we'll start with a lower investment on the front end. And once they start seeing the returns, that's when more of the money will be collected. But understand the situation they're in and maybe play a little bit with the terms.
And one final one that I'll throw out is just say no. Just say no. No, we can't do that. And are prepared to walk away. It is amazing what they'll do, because if you created value, they'll actually come back to you. So, hey, with that, we probably need to start wrapping up the episode. So, hey, if you got a question, send it to saleslogicpodcast.com or jump out to social media, just put hashtag, Sales Logic. We'll see it. We'll grab it. And hey, right now, I want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with... Hey, that's okay. That's okay. We do these on the fly. Remember when... Gee, can you tell we rehearse this a lot? Yes. Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity and spur of the moment,
then the sale turns into your competitive advantage or something like that.
We will get scripts available for all of our listeners here soon, and the sale becomes logical. We'll see you next week.
When we prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
And value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
Who has made a prospecting call today?
This is Sales Logic.